Hi, this is Alexi with another high leverage marketing update for you. Just the other day, I was reading about pilot fish. Now, these are fish that feed off the parasites of sharks. And because of that, the sharks don't eat them. So they have a symbiotic relationship. And why that's important is because locally, one of the gyms in the area that's the most prolific is called Fitness First. Now, those of you in Australia very much would know about Fitness First, the biggest chain of gyms in the country. Now, for years, they were known for not being too friendly with their contracts and their terms, and so lost a big chunk of market share. Well, anyway, the one locally in my area has had, literally across the road from it, 2 gyms open up that are discount gyms, and literally maybe 1 minute away, another gym open up that's a discount gym. And when I saw these gyms pop up, I thought, now this is a nice symbiotic relationship because Fitness First is bleeding members due to their contractual practices. These discount gyms have got banners and advertising running outside their centres. You know, no contract, big discounts, easy terms, all this sort of languaging because they're feeding off the traffic from Fitness First. So Fitness First is spending all this money to get new members, and because they're bleeding so many members, these other gyms just like literally across the road are sucking up these members that are leaving Fitness First and just building up their membership database. So it's a very, very smart relationship they've set up. Now, of course, there are downsides, like for example, if they overdo it and Fitness First goes out of business, that's going to affect their model, but that's a different discussion. So the lesson here is always look out for competition. It's not necessarily a bad thing to have competition because you can turn the competition into an advantage. Here's another example. Just recently, I was doing some research for a weight loss client, and I was looking at some discussion boards on weight loss, people that want to lose weight and have got questions and they're looking for advice. And one of the things that I do when I'm looking at discussion boards is to see which threads have got the most amount of views and the most amount of replies. Well, I was shocked to see that I think one of the biggest, if not the biggest, thread was about a product called OptiSlim. And those of you that don't know, OptiSlim is like a very low calorie sort of protein shake that's available in pharmacies, and it's quite well known, certainly here in Australia. Well, I looked at that and straight away I went, anybody that's in the weight loss industry could use that to their advantage by doing advertisements or by running a free report offer or something like that with the headline, The Case Against OptiSlim, or what you don't know about OptiSlim, or even possibly the dangers of OptiSlim. You have to be careful with that one because of the legals. But the point is, great illustration, great example where you've got a competitor in an industry that's spending loads on marketing where you can actually use that to your advantage. So one of my passions is understanding the success mindset and cultivating it and speaking to successful people, people that are just doing really cool things. And the other day I was speaking to one of my most successful clients, just an impromptu discussion about success. And we were talking about just, when you're in the zone, just things flow. And he was talking about how there were times when he'd be on holiday, just relaxing and making 6-figure sums every week, just like relaxing and saying, he wondered to himself, how is this even possible? It's just whatever I touch is really turning to gold. And I've got a family member who is also quite successful in his own right. And we have many discussions around this topic. And he actually calls it grooming intent. Grooming intent. Now, I won't get into intention and the metaphysics of intention. That's not the point here. What I do want to do is get very practical and talk about a way to cultivate a positive intent so that you become quote unquote lucky. And what I personally do is I have a switch, call it a success switch if you will, every morning that I do. And for me, this is what I do. I simply just get out my journal and I mind map my vision. I mind map what I'm trying to do in life or seeking to accomplish and what I'm working on. And I mind map my projects and I think them through using a mind map. And I find that triggers flow within minutes. I spend as little as 5 minutes a day on this, sometimes 10 minutes, but I find it gets me into a flow state where the day just flows. And I find when I don't do it, which is admittedly rare, but there are days when I don't do it. It's just a lumpy, inconvenient, and somewhat stressful day. So if you don't have a ritual in the morning to get you into flow, by all means borrow what I do, give it a shot, see what happens. There are many other techniques, but give that one a shot and see how you go, because I've tried many different routines in the morning and that seems to work really, really well. Next, let's talk about bumping your advertising response. Now, when I say advertising response, I mean both your online and offline. I mean Google Ads, banners, emails, landing pages, sales letters, doesn't matter what it is. Because there are certain words that just have more emotional impact than others. Whether they're a verb or an adjective is irrelevant, but certain words just have more bang. Consider these examples. The word house, changing it to the word home. That simple one-word change has much more emotional impact. Or consider the word child, and then consider the word baby. Simple one-word change, very different meaning. Or even using the word technique and then changing that maybe to sneaky technique or sneaky tip or ingenious technique. Just adding or changing some simple words can have a massive impact to your message. Now, there's a couple of books that I have downloaded from Amazon that are indispensable in helping me in this regard. One of those books is Words That Sell, and the other one is Phrases That Sell. They're like $15 books, but they are a literal library of words like that you can change in your messaging after you've done your initial draft. So let's say you've done a Google AdWord, or you've done a video sales letter, whatever it may be, doesn't matter. At the end of that, before you've finished finalizing your copy, pull out those two books and just run through those books and look for words that you can integrate into your message. And you'll be blown away at the difference that it makes in your copy. So I'd like to give an update on the copywriting intensive that I emailed everybody about 2 weeks ago. So just give you a 60-second overview on that. It looks like it's going to be on. I've had a very good response so far. I've had 5 people, 5 good contenders, or at least applications, you might say, of people that are interested. And it looks like we're going to hit our numbers. So if you're a freelance copywriter, or certainly a business coach, or selling any sort of high-end service, this is the first intensive of its kind that I've ever done on how to really build a successful freelancing business. Now, when you're freelancing, there are dozens, possibly hundreds of different situations you can find yourself in dealing with clients. You know, how much to invoice, when to invoice, how quickly to respond to emails, when to respond slowly, when should you give freebies, when should you always charge, and so on and so forth and so on and so forth. Now, these are all sticky situations that most of my colleagues in the industry really get stuck in. But for years, I've always danced around them and really glided through them elegantly without sort of any stress at all, because I've worked out ways to find the answer. Worked out ways to really come to a resolution that works for myself and my client. So I'll be revealing a lot of that over the 1 to 2 days of the intensive. Now, I'm considering adding a second day. I have to speak to some people that have joined up for it, or at least applied. Adding that second day, which is going to be all about getting big clients, because I've never ever been short of clients in my career, never. And I know in speaking to colleagues that that's actually quite uncommon. Many of my colleagues are always hunting for new clients, where that's never been a problem for me. So if enough people are interested, I'm planning on spending possibly all of day 2 just talking about lead generation for freelance copywriting, freelance business coaching, and possibly, depending on the service, other higher end services. So below this video, you'll see a link, and the link is just to a PDF, which lists all the things that I'm going to reveal over the 1 to 2 days. So if you haven't looked at in detail what I'll be covering, click on the link and open up the PDF and have a look at it. And if you're keen, just contact Sophie. Her email is down below, and we can organise a time to chat on the phone. So one other thing, I'd like to talk about what's called the pivot. Just recently, one of the companies that I have, we were midway through a launch, and the numbers were looking average, not so good. And so we all got together and said, what can we do here to really blow this one out of the water? And so we all got together and came up with an idea, and I won't get into the details of the idea, but we did a whole change in direction. What's called a pivot. So the lesson here is Don't ever just sit back and just let things happen to you. If you're mid-campaign or you're doing something in your business and it's not working out, look at the data, pay attention to the results, and be open to changing direction, staying dynamic, because that can be the key to really hitting on a winner. Be open-minded enough to say, this isn't working, we've quote-unquote failed. There's a better way to do this, let's go look for it. Actually, one more thing as well, just a book recommendation. I've been meaning to tell you about this book for a couple of weeks. By far the best book I've ever found on personal change is a book called Change Anything. I found it on Amazon about a month or two ago, life-changing book. If you're looking to change any habit, positive or negative, in any way at all, this is by far the most effective book I've ever found to do that. So go ahead and get that book as well. And I hope you've enjoyed this week's marketing update. Thanks a lot.